This is a Bryce Vocus Studios production. For my topic, I will be discussing Chapter 11, the environment, and the specific example is GIS. Well, GIS, what is it? GIS stands for Geographic Information System, and the Geographic Information System is basically a satellite image taken from a satellite in space that takes many different images at one time and then is able to display a layered image to show you different topographical information, starting from the top, looking at the base, and then going down, looking at parcels, zoning, floodplains, wetlands, land covers, soils, and then finally at the bottom, the composite overlay, which is everything layered on top of one thing. And geographical information, it integrates hardware, software, and it also integrates the data for capturing, managing, analyzing, and displaying all forms of geographically referenced information. The GIS system allows its users to view, understand, and question, also interpret and visualize data in many different ways, and this all reveals relationships, patterns, trends, and in the form of maps, globes, reports, and lastly, charts. The GIS helps you as the viewer to answer questions and also solve problems by looking at your data in a way that is really quickly and easy to read, and it's so quick and easy to read because you can easily separate each layer of the image out and just look at that one layer at a time. For example, if you wanted to see what kind of water was underneath your house or something, you take a GIS image of it and then pull out the wetlands layer and look at all of the areas that would be considered wetlands and might be a problem for you in the future. Well, what is GIS used for? GIS has many different uses, but some of the main ones are determining weather. Civil engineers also use GIS a lot, and just basically looking at any sort of geographical information. Here's some examples of some groups or people that might use GIS, and that would be indigenous people might use it, some different communities, research institutions, environmental scientists, health organizations, and also your businesses and government agencies would use GIS. And what exactly would those people use it for? Well, they'd use it for different ranges of information storage, such as spiritual pattern identification, such as maybe you see those farmers that have these weird crop dustings, different signs inside their crop fields, and they might want to know where it came from, or if there's something like a below layer that this might be causing it to happen. Also some visual presentation of the spiritual relationships. This is also used for remote sensing, which is a different topic, but still very tied into GIS. And all of these are made available through the internet and looking at different interfaces. Another GIS application would be crime, and either your lawyers or police officers can take a GIS image of the crime scene and look at the image layer by layer and examine each layer on its own to determine to see if they see any evidence that might show that the party is guilty or the party is innocent. But they could this would make it easier for them to just instead of looking at one image as a whole, GIS allows them to separate the image and look at each individual piece so they can more easily scrutinize the crime scene and try and determine if they see any sort of information that might be valuable to them inside the GIS image. Another use of GIS image is hydrology, and hydrology is basically the study of water and water systems in the world. So a GIS an image could be taken of, let's say, a river, and they could pull out the bottom layer of the image to see that the bottom of the river is actually covered in maybe valuable minerals that might be valuable to the indigenous people that are farther down the river. They can use the GIS system to determine if it's valuable for them to maybe build a dam at the top of the river so that they can control the water flow, and maybe then if that dam controls the water flow, they can go down to the bottom of the river and get those valuable minerals out for the people down at the end of the river, the indigenous people. And this would all be available and capable through the use of the GIS system. Lastly, we have to ask the question, is there any social ethical issues? Well, of course there is. There is the issue of privacy. If you look at it, there are satellites all over the world that are on top of you, and these civil engineers or government agencies can use whatever they want and take those satellite images of your house, per se, and they could use the GIS system to examine the layers under your house or something, and you might not want that because you might feel like that this agency is invading your privacy. Also, if these images are taken, they are going to be stored in some sort of database. And how are you going to know, as the user or the person who's been in the house and taken picture of, if the pictures are secure, and if someone who you don't want to see the images could possibly just get in there and see the images? How reliable is the system? How accurate is it? If maybe the system shows you that there is a wetland underneath your house or a wetland underneath your property, but you go and you decide not to build there, but then maybe another person builds there later and they find out that there actually wasn't a wetland and it was just a GIS error and it was just displaying something that was completely not true. Lastly, the last social ethical issue would be equality of access, because not all countries or not all people have access to this technology, such as some of the less developed countries that don't have the money to pay for it. So they would not have equal access to this system. It would be unfair to them, which isn't which wouldn't be equal access to everyone else. These would be the sources I used, all 5 of them. This has been a Bryce Focus Studios production. Thank you very much for your time.